Can You Not, episode 39, the one you've all been waiting for, because this is the first time that Brian got to pick a topic.
Yay.
What was the topic you chose, Brian?
I chose...
Publicity stunts.
Publicity stunts, yes. I was thinking about my topic. Right. Yeah.
How did Jesse sit here? It doesn't work.
We've broken that cushion of the futon multiple times, so it's very easy to sink into the abyss of it.
Man.
Anyway, Brian, you said you would like to go first, right?
Yes, I would like to go first.
Well, too bad.
Oh, no.
No, I'll let you go.
I'll
let you. What?
There are too many things happening.
No, we haven't gotten a comment from your dad in a while, Amber. I'm a little disappointed.
Tell him about it. I don't know what you want from me.
Although we did
get to your comment about his commenting.
We did get an awesome tweet from our good friend Cliff, fan and friend of the podcast, who is on the, what was it called? The Blockbuster Dropouts podcast, where they talk about movies. And he was a guest on an episode where they talked about the 90s movie The Craft. And he gave a shout out to Can You Not at the end. So thank you to Cliff and thank you to Blockbuster Dropouts.
Awesome. Have to check that out.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I listened to it. It was a very fun conversation. And The Craft is just a fun movie too. So I know it's one of Bryce's favorites.
Alright, well, I'm sure everyone has heard by now about all the clown sightings, the creepy clowns across America. And, well, basically my conspiracy theory on these clown sightings is that they are related to the new It movie that actually I just recently discovered they just finished production on and should come out next year, probably around this time, being Halloween time. And I did a little research, and there's an article that talks about whether or not they are related, and I believe she is the executive producer for the film, Kathy Nam, said that New Line is absolutely not involved in the rash of clown sightings. But based off of the description of the clowns and the way they were acting, kind of like, do we really believe it? I mean, they were in the woods, they were trying to lure in children. We know Pennywise was trying to eat the children. Right. I would hope not that's not the case.
That might be publicity stuff a little too far.
Yeah. But we also know that there have been actual murders that have been related to these clowns or attacks. Yeah. There was a 14-year-old girl that was killed by a knife. There have been many people attacked by these clowns. I know here in Ohio, someone had their back light broken out, and then it brought me back to the whole the Scream movie, the second movie, when at the opening of the movie, it was Omar Epps and I can't remember. I think it was Jada Pinkett Smith got killed in the theater. And that was supposed to be a movie based off of the things that happened in the first Scream movie.
Right.
And just where do they draw the line with these things, you know?
I feel like death would be a pretty good place to draw the line.
But I mean, like, as far as like, if it was a publicity stunt, obviously the fact that someone died as a result would be a reason why they would deny it, but how do we hold them accountable for their actions if it's proven that they did start it?
Well, I mean, I feel like they could be held accountable on some level, but on another level, like, something like this, you can't really control it. Like, if they told somebody to go wander around in a clown costume and then told somebody else to catch it on video, like, like as a hoax kind of thing, like oh, pretend like this clown's like tapping on your window and then post it on Facebook, and they wanted it to go around. Like that's one thing, but I don't really think it's their fault that everybody's insane and picked it up and started doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, I think it'd be easier to draw the line if they did say like, well, at the very beginning we had one clown who we just did it as a publicity thing, but the fact that there's like no direct connection to it makes me skeptical, I guess.
And it's also, if it doesn't come out for a year, I don't know what good it would be to
yeah,
start
but I mean, like when I first saw the clown sightings and that they were popping up and stuff, I saw it right underneath an ad for the new It movie that's coming out next year.
That might just be because the relation. It's clowns. You know, like they're gonna show you those things.
It looks like it's coming out September 8th of next year. So that's almost a year, I guess. Yeah.
I googled clowns murder and looked in news, and the first thing that came up was a middle schooler was arrested for attempting to hire a clown to kill her teacher.
Oh, wow.
Can I steal that as like a middle school children's book idea?
I mean, I feel like it's more likely that it started out as a prank, because I'm sure this kind of thing happens every year to some degree. Like one person's trying to scare somebody else, or somebody in a city is wandering around trying to spook people, but it just kind of got out of hand. But what's scary? Okay, so I didn't even know they were killing people. Yeah, like that's pretty bad. People. But even before I knew that they were actually murdering people. What's really unnerving it's you don't know who's joking. Right. Like, you know, if I were to see somebody like in my hometown walking around in a clown costume, I'd probably like run, but I'd run because it's a clown costume and not necessarily because I rationally think they're actually gonna come at me. But these people are walking around with like near where I live in Lakewood, there were reports of a clown walking around with an axe. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, that's not a joke anymore. Like, that's not funny. That's horrifying. Like, that's
apparently there's been sightings in Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights, I believe.
Yeah, and Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they're talking about canceling Halloween in some cities or trick-or-treating in some cities.
Yeah, they were closing schools. I don't remember where, but I saw reports they closed schools because there were clowns walking around. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
And these are kids. Like, it's not entertaining. It's not like, okay, it's one thing to make a movie, but it's a whole nother thing for them to even attempt something that like hints at, okay, now, you know, like now this is a thing and there are kids in danger.
Yeah, it's like I can understand people's need to try to do public pranks and stuff like that. There's a point where you're seriously causing a detriment to the community that's not just outside of being something harmless or scary or something like that. It's actively hurting people, and if you get enough copycat people, then I can see why it's gotten out of hand. And that if you say there's a murder or whatever, it's like, man, it's pretty crazy stuff.
I wonder if there's been any stuff like over near California. Everything I've heard about has been like in Ohio and Pennsylvania.
We're the best.
Here we are. I'm Googling it right now.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's solely an American problem. I wonder if they're doing it over in like the UK and stuff too.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but as someone who has younger siblings that are not afraid of clowns, to think that a clown costume, especially this time of year, people walking around in clown costumes is not that abnormal.
Right.
So if one walks up to my sister and they're actually dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time that people have gone too far with like a movie or something, taking it out of context.
Oh, yeah. Scream is a great, because there were a lot of copycat crimes from like that.
There were a lot. And the second movie was about a copycat crime.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's like, I know, like, it's got to be tough for the creators of these kinds of things. Like, if Stephen King feels like he had any sort of influence on creating this phenomenon, I'm sure he probably feels terrible. Like, that's got to feel horrifying to see something that you created turned into an actual, like, real life danger for people. I do see, I'm looking at this article, Clownageddon, as they're calling it apparently, comes to the UK as Newcastle schoolchildren targeted by a creepy clown attack. So it isn't just a U.S. thing. It's happening across the world, it would seem.
One of the first things, so I found, it's a USA Today article, and I haven't read the whole thing yet, but it's kind of a timeline. And one of the first things that they have listed here was on October 1st. There's this clown thing happening. It was Gags, the Green Bay clown, which it was like reported, and it freaked out people in Wisconsin. But the guy who had started up that conversation said it was a joke because he was making an independent horror film. So he was actually trying to push for it. But I don't know if that's actually where this thing started or if it's just another incident that happened.
Yeah, it says the phenomena first emerged in late... Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, I think it was... This one was in Wisconsin.
Yeah, this says the phenomena first emerged in late August in Greenville County, South Carolina, when people dressed as clowns allegedly attempted to lure children into local woodland.
With money, yeah, I have that too.
Creepy clown threats have led to school lockdowns in Ohio and Alabama, and police have even linked a fatal stabbing of a 16-year-old boy in Reading, Pennsylvania to the phenomenon. Yeah. That's pretty messed up.
Creepy. And like I said, like normal pranks, I don't think they're okay, but I don't necessarily think they're super harmful either, especially considering like the type of people. Like I figure most of this stuff is like adolescent boys, honestly. Like if somebody were to tell me about this, and it'd be like even taking it so far as like I'm gonna carry a knife, like that's not okay. But if it were like an adolescent boy or a kid, you know, who isn't actually gonna hurt anybody, it's one thing. But it's, I don't know, you have to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
I think most pranks are terrible. Most of them aren't really advantageous to anybody.
Yeah.
This may affect clown business too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who thinks about the clowns?
Right, real clowns.
That sounds like another great story idea.
That's actually one of the stories that popped up.
Oh, really?
Professional clown says rash of creepy clown sightings is dragging good clowns down.
Aw.
I'm not gonna read
You know what?
article.
Clown lives matter.
Yeah, clown lives do matter.
Clowns are terrifying. I don't like clowns.
Who wants to go next?
What do you want to do?
That was the
You said that.
I don't know.
What do you want to do?
I can go next.
Do you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay.
Alright.
Very good.
Okay, Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name.
Linda. I've been told that I'm like Linda and that Bryce is like Bob.
That's funny.
That's what you should do for Halloween. That is so
I
funny.
should do that. Oh, can I be your Tina?
I feel like Amber's more of a Tina.
Well, I can be. What's the boy's name? What's the boy's name?
She's the very like dry.
I could be Tina.
She's the one that twerks. Tina twerk is fun.
I can just make noises.
I was kind of like thinking about where did a lot of publicity stunts begin? Where did this whole idea come from? Earliest version that I could find, I guess would be considered kind of a publicity stunt, was in the 4th century. There was a Greek arsonist named Herostratus who sought to destroy the Temple of Artemis, which was considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And the temple was like honored. It was supposed to have like a goddess, and like it was very like a very holy site. And he basically tried to burn it down in an attempt to immortalize himself and make people remember his name. And he was successful. We don't really have a full version anymore. We just have models of it and what they think it looked like. But I guess he was successful because here's a 4th century dude whose name we still know in the 21st century because he burned something down. So I guess like what I would think about is like, in fact, they named a whole term after it called Herostratic fame, which is when someone tries to create a crime or do something terrible to immortalize their name, which I feel like is a super relevant thing happening today. Because how many like shooters and stuff do we get who like they say,
remember their name?
yes, like we just want to be immortal, you know? It's like we just want people to remember our name. I mean, that's essentially, and then of course the media latches onto it and they say this person's name over and over again until we do remember their name enough, you know? So it's just kind of interesting. What do you think of Herostratus fame?
As soon as he was a Greek guy, I literally thought his name was going to be like arson. Like I was just assuming that his name was going to be what the word is. I don't know. I think it's sad that people. I don't even know how to put that in words. I should have thought about it longer. That people are they feel so small with their own lives that they feel the need to do something destructive or violent in order to feel like their life has any kind of legacy. Like that's really, really, really sad.
Because a lot of it is very a lot of them end up destroying themselves, full well knowing, you know, as they're doing it, that they're gonna get the fame after they die. So it's like,
yeah, and that's gotta be like a scary place of loneliness, to be that person that feels like they have to go to a place that dark, you know?
Yeah. But it's also like, why do we want our names to be remembered so much? Why do we feel so compelled to make some sort of footprint on this earth? Like, good or bad? Why is it because we secretly kind of want to be immortal? Is it because we think that if our name lives on, then we kind of live on in a way? Like, why do we do this?
Because we're existentially sad as a species. But that's kind of what I mean, though, is because like most of the time, even though people are afraid of their memory dying out, they have other things to do with their time, I guess. Like, because if you're that worried about being, I feel like the people who are remembered are the ones who are worried about being remembered. They're the ones who are wrapped up in what they're doing. Like, we don't remember Albert Einstein because he wanted to be remembered. We remember Albert Einstein because he came up with all these groundbreaking concepts.
Right.
And it's kind of the same with artists and things like that. It's not necessarily like that they wanted to be remembered. It's that they were able to like really, really create something that hadn't been seen before and that people want to remember and they want to revisit over and over again.
Yeah. Who's Albert Einstein? Just looking for the explanation.
I was gonna throw my shoe at you on the floor.
What do you think, Brian?
Well, like, I mean, the only thing that the one thing that popped up in my head was the whole everybody's gonna respect the shooter, but the one in front of the gun lives forever.
That's kind of true.
I mean, like, even though people do those destructive things, the people that are affected are usually the ones that are the most remembered, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they can say over and over again the name of the person that pulled the trigger, but the person that, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. I know that, like, Yoko Ono always requests that no one say the name, if they can help it, of John Lennon's killer, which I do know the name of, but out of respect, I will not say it right now. But he's been denied parole basically every 2 years because he keeps on trying to get out, and they're like, nope, I think you're going back to but it's like, I don't know how realistic that is, considering we are so knowledge thirsty, to just say, like, let's not mention the name of the various people who commit these devious acts. Right. And at a point, the reason we forget half of their names is because there's so goddamn many of them anymore. Which is a really sad kind of realization, I think.
And the other thing, there are two things. I hope I don't forget one of them. The first one is that while it's not necessarily an act that somebody does in order to be remembered, while we're on the topic of horrendous things that keep getting repeated, I know who Brock Turner is, but I don't know the name of the girl he raped. So, like, on one level, it's like, I should know her name. Like, I should know this person. But on another level, it's, look at this person, look what he did, and look at, he's not getting the punishment he deserves and that kind of thing. So, I don't know. I think on one level, it's bad that we remember the perpetrator and not the victim. But on the other level, it's like, it's almost, yes, they become almost a point of fame. Like, people know who they are. But on the other level, it's not a good fame, and I guess there are people who say like no publicity is bad publicity or whatever, but it's still like you look at this person and you hear their name and you just associate them with this horrendous thing, and it doesn't even become about that person. It's just look at what this person did, you know.
Right.
Are you looking it up, Joe?
I'm looking up because if I remember correctly, I think she didn't want her name revealed in this particular case.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, but there are other situations where I know that to be true, though.
Right, like I know who Ariel Castro is, but I can't think of the names.
Yeah.
That's another weird thing that spins off of these is when people make movies about this kind of stuff. I always think that's really bizarre.
That OJ show.
There's an OJ show?
Yes. They did a big documentary kind of thing recently that was very critically acclaimed and stuff like that, but it's like...
Cuba Gooding Jr.
But it's a good question, though, like, at what point are we just glorifying these people instead of telling a story about them?
Especially, like, I feel like part of the problem is that people like to do historical things, like the Titanic. I don't know when the Titanic happened. Do you know what year the Titanic happened?
It was 1912.
1912. And the movie came out, like, quite a while later.
Yeah, 97.
At least as far as I'm concerned. Well, now everybody's so hungry for the next big eye-catching controversial thing that they're making movies about these things, and we're not even 10 years out, you know. It's
1911, I'm sorry.
Oh, you were closer than I would have been. But I feel like,
no idea.
I almost feel like the shows and the movies and things are trying to follow in the footsteps of things like the Titanic is the easiest one I can think of, but like other things that are based on, like Saving Private Ryan or something like that. Like they want to follow along with this historical thing.
Are they gonna make a 9/11 movie?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know they have, but like, I'm sure like in 10 years we'll get like a really like big critically acclaimed one that takes place on 9/11. Like,
because there's the 9/11
Well, yeah,
one.
there's what's the boy? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Boy in the striped pajamas?
No,
that's the Holocaust.
Yeah. I didn't know if that's where you're going.
It's like a boy and he lost his dad or something in 9/11.
Okay.
The one that I was thinking about was the one about the airplane that was supposed to crash into the Pentagon, and instead the people like took it over and took it down, and they were heroes because they sacrificed their lives and all that kind of stuff. But
What's that clicking?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, sorry. I was like, I can pick it up.
But that movie was less about the people almost and more about the act. Whereas if you look at a movie like the Titanic, it's very character oriented.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's, I don't know, it feels weird and wrong when we make these character centered like dramas about these really horrific, very recent things that have happened.
Well, especially like for us, we don't see as much portrayals of historical things that have happened. But like for people who are older, who have lived through the Vietnam War, who have lived through all this stuff, like it's got to be really weird. Like I remember even my professor for my screenwriting class was talking about how he took his father-in-law to see Saving Private Ryan when it first came out or something like that, and he was a Vietnam War veteran. Like he didn't know that it was going to be like that intense of a movie, and the guy seemed to enjoy it. He said it was very powerful, but like, man, or no, it was a different professor. If my professor's listening, which I know you aren't, I was thinking of a different professor, but yeah, I just think that's really interesting because then like, man, if you were actually there at that moment to see a reenactment of it, how weird. But time's up on that. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't even know it went off.
Yeah, we don't have this one doesn't make noise anymore. It's kind of upsetting, really.
That's so sad. You don't have to sing though.
I could sing,
but you don't.
But I just
is that the former noise?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great. But then my phone I had to get a new phone, and I lost that sound.
Nobody
effect.
misses it.
Everyone
Nobody misses it except Joe.
I get viewers sending in comments at least 4 times a week.
The microphone.
8 times a week.
They're listeners. You did it wrong.
Speaking of things you listen to, for you, the listeners of the Can You Not podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So, the book I'm going to recommend that you listen to is actually a play. It's A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. They have
We're putting on that show. We're doing that show at Cleveland State.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
it's
I'm gonna have to definitely watch that. So go check out Good State if you're there. But I really love this play, and they have a 1974 cast version on Audible that serves as the audiobook. That's gonna be my suggestion. Brian, have you read any good books that you would like to recommend our listeners use for their free audiobook?
Too much homework for reading lately, so I can't read.
Amber, do you have any suggestions of books our listeners can check out with their free audiobook?
I wasn't prepared. Joe didn't tell me I needed to have book recommendations, and he also didn't tell me that they had to be on Audible, and I don't want to recommend something that's not on Audible, so I'll recommend something that I've already recommended in the past, which is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I was just talking to somebody about this book today, and I don't even think he wanted a book recommendation, but I'm so excited about this book that I gave him the recommendation anyway. So that's a great book. I don't know who narrates it on Audible, but it's a great book. You should look it up.
So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/canyounot. Again, that's audibletrial.com/canyounot.
Sorry.
For your free audio.
Please live and
Don't inhale water.
breathe. Breathe.
I think it's great.
All right.
I tried to hold it until the end of the ad. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's run. It's ruined. It's done. Whatever.
I'm crying.
It's
I'm
fine.
so upset about it.
Peace out.
When I heard the topic was publicity stunts, I googled publicity stunts and I couldn't find a single thing and it was awful. So I stopped thinking about it for a while. And then I started thinking about something that I actually talk to people about a lot. And it's this idea that people or companies use almost altruism, I guess, as a selling point. So there are two major facets of this, I feel. And the first one is when people market things, like how it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month and the NFL is making everything pink. They're using that as a selling point. They're trying to use that to attract more female viewers and also to cater to the female viewers that they already have. And the question becomes, okay, well, how much benefit does this actually have on breast cancer? And things similar to that. And then the other side of that coin, I think, would be companies like Tom's or other buy two, get one, and the other one gets donated companies. Because what ends up happening with companies like that, and there's a documentary about it called Poverty Inc. that's really, really good that I recommend, and this is how I had learned about all this. What happens is that you can say, okay, well, I'm donating this pair of shoes, but Tom's is a huge company, so there are lots of shoes being donated. And you go to the place where the shoes are being donated, and now if there's a person there who wants to sell shoes, they cannot, because shoes are free and you can't compete with free. And similar things happen when all the disastrous things happened in Haiti, people were sending all this rice. And they wouldn't stop. The destruction was there, but they were recovering, it was fine, and people wouldn't stop sending rice. Then the rice farmers couldn't sell anything, so their economy wouldn't come back. So these are the two major things that I feel happen a lot with this. And part of the problem is that when people support these kinds of things, like people buy the ribbon for breast cancer, or they buy the pair of shoes, or they donate money to any of the various organizations, they feel good about it, but they don't realize the real life impacts of what their money is doing or is not doing. In the case of, if you look at Susan G. Komen and how much her salary is, and then you look at the actual percentage of how much of that money goes to actual treatment and research, it's something like, if I remember the number, it's something like less than 30% of the money that's donated, because most of it goes back into make more pink things, sell more pink things, advertising kind of stuff. So that's what I want to talk about.
And she's a good example of someone who had very good intentions, but her family after she passed away was very money hungry. It's
yeah, and then there are other cases you have the Salvation Army where they were actively campaigning against LGBTQ. They were using the money that
technically a church.
Yeah, and they're using the money that you put in the bucket at Christmas to do this. Or Goodwill, where they have documented cases of people with disabilities working for less than 25 cents an hour because of loopholes in the minimum wage laws. And it's you feel good about yourself when you donate your clothes. You feel good about yourself when you go to the football game and everybody's wearing all the pink, but what is this? What are you actually doing? You know what I'm saying?
Ryan, do you subject.
Do you have thoughts? I can keep talking if you want, but I don't know if you want that.
I mean, I've always felt like actions are better than my money. My actions can go further than my money in regards to things like that. So I'm the type of person that when a problem arises, like if I had the capability to go to Haiti, I probably wouldn't have been in Haiti instead of giving my money. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I feel like there aren't enough things out there that everyday people can do that 100% benefit the people that they're trying to have them benefit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as far as like the things like wearing the pink at the football games and stuff, if it brings awareness, I don't see a problem with that. And I mean, if it benefits you somewhat in the process, I don't know that that's a big problem. But if it's benefiting you way more than it's benefiting the people that you're trying to help, then it's kind of like, what's the point of doing what you're doing except for self-gain? You know?
And one of the big things that I have with the breast cancer research, it's not so much that I think we shouldn't be aware, and there are all kinds of like things that we can go into just breast cancer research, but I think part of the problem is more the major discrepancy between breast cancer and like there are like 46 kinds of cancer, and I think it was pancreatic cancer. There's another form of cancer that affects men and women pretty much equally that kills the same number of people, but they get vastly less funding than breast cancer research does. And it's almost like breast cancer is the attractive one. Breast cancer is the sexy topic that anybody can get behind and everybody can talk
all
about.
All the clever quotes, the boobs are awesome shirts that are
right, which we can go into even more things about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not so much that I have a problem with people being aware of breast cancer. It's that why is it only breast cancer? You know, lung cancer is the following one that most people are aware of and that the most research goes into. But there's so many. I guess cancers. There's so many things that need treated, and everybody focuses on this one, and it almost gets like it turns into this frenzy of everybody's wearing pink and everybody feels like they're doing something great, and it's like in the end, what's actually happening?
Yeah, and Bryce and I were talking a little bit about this just the other day, in terms of like it's harder to even find like men who have like testicular cancer and stuff like that, because men are so much less encouraged to go to the doctors as is than women. And so it's like that feels like it would be a really good thing to target, you know, to say like, hey, no, like this is a really serious thing.
Awareness.
But this needs awareness. Like, guys, you should go to the doctor sometimes. It's not it's not a sissy thing. It's not, you know, it's not any of this stuff that all these
prostate cancer. Yeah, that's a big one.
And that's terrible to go through. I've known people who've gone through that kind of stuff, and it's not fun. So it's like we can't treat, you know, actually taking care of ourselves like it's just some kind of whatever, you know.
Right, and it's that's where I feel like all this like pink awareness stuff gets harmful, is because like I said, this is the sexy one to focus on, this is the easy one to focus on, but everybody seems to ignore the other pieces, and that's kind of where I start to wonder, like when you are buying your pink toolkit, or you know, like getting your pink shirt, or doing your run that benefits Susan G. Komen, which it usually does. I want to know how much of it is actually like for the thing that you're like, it's supposed to be for breast cancer research. How much of this is actually for that? Like how interested are you actually in what you're doing?
And one of the things that I have a problem with, as far as not even just breast cancer, but all the cancer research and stuff, there are cures for many types of cancer, and it seems like not enough of this money is going towards, like, even as far as the research stuff, just it should be going towards making those cures affordable. You know what I mean? A lot of this is controversial stuff, and I know there's problems with like stem cell research and things like that, but if it was more affordable, it would be hard to argue against those things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend a website that I really enjoy called charitynavigator.org. And what they do is they'll tell you how the money is being spent. They'll tell you how good they are about their transparency, their accountability, and they give it a rating, and they try to get as recent information as possible. And I've used that in the past because we, for the premieres that I do, we've always given to a charity a portion of the proceeds. And so I've always used this website to find ones that I think are really legit and match our values. Like this year, we're donating to Cure Alzheimer's Fund, which has a 100% rating on Charity Navigator, which is super rare. Like they literally put 100% of their money directly into research and nothing else. Like that's awesome. That's the kind of people I want to support. And so I would highly recommend that people check that out, because some of them do check out and some of them are great. Like water.org is actually a really reputable charity. But like you're saying before, stuff like Susan B. Komen.
Or like Autism Speaks.
Yeah. So the ones that you would think are, they're high profile, so they must be legit. Like, no, check this stuff out. See where the money's going to.
I'm pretty sure we, as the internet, decided that Autism Speaks is a hate group like months ago, and people are still supporting them and stuff, so.
They did change their mind, supposedly, about, they say, they admit that vaccination does not cause autism, but at this point they've done their damage. Like,
yeah,
okay, 15 years
even before the vaccinations, the way that they were approaching their treatment of autistic people was not good.
Right.
It was not good.
Right.
Bad. But anyway.
What did we learn today?
Well, I learned that clown lives matter. And that you guys need to stop because it's really affecting their business. They pay bills that way, guys.
I learned from Brian that publicity stunts suck. I learned from myself that publicity stunts suck. And I learned from Amber that publicity stunts suck.
I learned that arson is not the name of the guy who first committed arson. Shockingly enough.
Now I'm curious, who was the first known arsonist? Now you're going to get me in a Wikipedia loop that I'll never escape from. Well, anyway, I can look that up in my spare time. If you want to check out more of our brilliant, amazing, super califragilisticexpialidocious podcast.
Very dope.
You can go supercalifragilisticexpialidocious podcast.
Like how you did that there.
You can go to iTunes or into the podcast section, Can You Not, with a question mark at the end. Leave us a rating on iTunes. We haven't got one in a while, and we'd love to read yours.
Please rate us
on the air.
We're gonna get sadder and sadder the longer we go without a rating.
And if you would like to also follow us on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/CYN podcast. On Facebook, you can find us, Can You Not? We're on Twitter, CYNPLZ. Follow us there. And actually, since it is every 10 episodes, we have an episode where we listen to your suggestions for topics, and we do the quick little rounds. You can go to our email. This is canyouNotPodcast@gmail.com. Sorry, I was just taking a picture.
This is the worst picture I've ever taken in my whole life.
Give us something that we can talk about on our next episode, because we will solely just be going over your suggestions and ideas, and we'd love to see what you have in store for us. So as a whole, can you not?
Can you not?
Can this picture I just took not? It is so bad. Oh, it's the worst. It's on Instagram now.
Hey, check it out. Amber's Instagram has been she's been posting again, Amber.
Yeah, like 3 whole pictures.
And isn't it Amba J?
Yeah, I changed it to Amba J.
Go follow Amba J
on Instagram. What up?